Hey, it's Dr. Karen Kan. Welcome to another edition of the Spiritual Medicine Digest. And if you're new to my channel, I'd love for you to hit subscribe and the notification button so you know when the next available video is. So, this week on the Spiritual Medicine Digest, I'm going to be sharing some insights related to food and ascension. Ascension. So, this is the process of all of reality, if you will, evolving and expanding to the next stage of of our spiritual evolution. And this expansion process, or some people call ascension process, is a natural outcropping of just life, which is super cool. And there are a lot of changes for us humans through this process. Some people have ascension symptoms. So they may have more, headaches, trouble sleeping, water gain in their bodies, sometimes pain, chronic pain, and fatigue. Some of this has to do with them feeling more, their spiritual gifts expanding. We call those the clairs, clairsentience, clairaudience, clairvoyance, etc. So they can cause temporary symptoms, if you will, that are uncomfortable in our bodies. So there are ways in which we can mitigate those symptoms, and that's the topic of other videos that I've done in some of my classes. One of the questions that has come up for me personally, and I asked this of Source recently, is what about food? What should we be eating as humans to support ourselves to get to the next stage of our spiritual evolution with greater ease and grace? Like, what is healthy for our human bodies? Now, when we ask this question, it is full of all sorts of opinions, perspectives, and even politics. So this conversation can be really difficult. And what I also realized is through the ascension process is that in order for us to ascend from 3D to 5D to the next stage of our spiritual evolution, a lot of the action steps is around releasing preconceived ideas, beliefs, judgments, things like that. Sometimes it is helpful to ask our off-world friends who are highly evolved, who may have gone through a similar process maybe thousands or millions of years ago, to get their perspective. And that's one of the ways in which we can just kind of see in the future, how we can get to that joy, love, peace, harmony for all, because these other cultures have done that. So just as a preface to what we're going to talk about today, this can be triggering for some people if you have staunch beliefs in this is the best way to eat or heal your body with food. Food is medicine. Food is medicine, absolutely. Is it the only medicine? No. So this may or may not be something that you're open to, but I hope that you can remain in a place of peace and calm, listen to what I have to share, and then filter it through your own consciousness, what you're ready to believe or shift. I am constantly questioning my beliefs and my perceptions, and I'll actually give you a perfect example today as well of something I recently did. So, like I said, today's discussion can be very triggering for people, and if you can stay in stillness, if you can even feel, if you start to get triggered, feel the energy in your body as you get triggered, because then you'll be doing stillness on the fly, and whatever is ready to release any resistance, judgments, shaming, blaming, pointing the finger, shoulding, shoulding other people, things like that can start to fall away. And that's really, at the end of the day, how we're going to get to that peace, love, joy, prosperity, and radiant health for all. So this is the preface in saying that I personally believe, this is my personal perspective, so take it for whatever it is, whether it feels right to you. My personal perspective, based on my current and past experiences, is that there is no perfect one size fits all when it comes to many things, including what we put in our mouths and what we feed ourselves. I am constantly, I guess, shocked sometimes at because I test thousands of people, or of sessions over the years, what the body wants and needs, and some of the things we never get taught in medicine, not just Western medicine, but not even in homeopathic or naturopathic medicine, about what our bodies need and want and how it processes things. Case in point, at some point, in my ascension process, I was doing a lot of entity clearing day in and day out, and I noticed I was needing a lot more minerals. And my understanding at the time was just like, wow, there's a lot of energy, processing through me, within me, so I just need to support myself. And I was actually drinking like 16 ounces of mineral force mixed in with mag force every single day. It's one of my favorite mineral combinations is mineral force and mag force from my colleague and friend, Dr. Stephen Davis. Wonderful energy infused stuff. And so this was really supporting me through the ascension process, taking these minerals. But boy, it was getting a little cha-ching taking that much, because normally you take a capful or not even a capful per day, but I was requiring so much. Later on, I realized that I could actually ask Source, how well am I assimilating, utilizing, and absorbing my minerals, and then figure out very specifically which ones were not 100%, and then do a TOLPAKAN healing on that process or whatever was going on, and then I could absorb, assimilate, utilize all my and distribute all my minerals optimally. And sometimes I would have, like, I call it an ascension glitch, where an ascension upgrade would occur and suddenly my muscles are in spasm. I'm like, I did not do anything particular that was different, and I'd be like, all of a sudden I need more magnesium or whatever. And then now I know I can just test to say, okay, is there a mineral, am I having problems processing my minerals? So if you're like, I don't get how you do the absorption, assimilation, utilization, distribution. Don't worry about it. That's something we teach, in my TOLPAKAN level 1 and 2 trainings. Suffice it to say, you can just test how well am I processing the minerals that I take in my body, or even how well am I processing minerals in my body. You'll get a number out of 100% if you muscle test or use the pendulum. If you're like, oh, it's not over 95%, then you can ask, how happy is the least happy mineral processing in my body? Because you might be processing calcium at 99.9% well, but processing magnesium at 20% well, you see? And then everything's averaged out when you just ask the general question. So you can say the least happy, and that might be, wow, I'm processing my minerals at 70% well, but the least happy is 30% well. And then you can say, well, which mineral is that, right? And you can go through and look online, what are the minerals, in my body and food, and then, go ahead and test it. You can say, is the minerals name between A and L, or M and Z, and in the English language, figure out what mineral it is. Sometimes I know the common ones. So if I have, spasms, things like that, I will check magnesium, I will check potassium, I will check calcium. One time when I was having these spasms, I was not processing calcium well. And when I asked why, it was because it was part of the ascension process. There was a little bit of glitch, like the physical body wasn't quite as caught up as the spiritual or energetic body. So it was having a little bit of a glitch. I call it a glitch. And once we did that, and healed, was able in that case to integrate the ascension energies fully, then all of a sudden, all the spasms went away. Cool, because I could now assimilate, utilize, absorb, and distribute calcium appropriately. I could process calcium appropriately. So this to say that, okay, sometimes we have these glitches, right? So this is how detailed it can get. So can you imagine trying to dictate to some other human what they should or should not eat? Now, in some ways, I get to do that in a way, not dictate, but suggest, because people come to me asking me for help as a VIP client, for example, and saying, can you help me with my food? I'm having stomach issues. I'm having this issue, that issue. And what I've seen through thousands of testing sessions is that everyone is really different. Yes, there are trends. For example, if their minerals not working well, sometimes the trend is needing more magnesium. That's a very common trend. Some minerals tend to be kind of funky, more than others, probably because magnesium, for example, is responsible for 325 plus enzymatic reactions in the body. So it's a very, very important macro mineral. And they say that 70% of humans are under the recommended dietary, levels of magnesium, and that's probably not even enough magnesium. So can you imagine, most people are deficient in magnesium? So yeah, I think that's probably why it comes up a lot when I'm doing testing. So what I've noticed is that everybody is different, and sometimes their needs are very specific. And that means sometimes we will have a psychological, I could say need, subconscious need, conscious need, whatever, to feel like we are doing the right thing, right? Not just by our bodies, but ethically. So when when those that don't eat meat, like vegans and vegetarians, say, hey, everyone should be on that diet because of XYZ. I totally get that. If you're like, oh, I want to be nonviolent, I love animals, I don't want to kill animals, heck yeah, I totally get that, right? The thought is that eating meat means that you're killing more animals than being vegetarian or vegan. Interestingly, that may not be true. I'm not going to get into that. Other people have written books about that, and that was kind of a shock to me to learn that. However, that being said, if that's your belief, right, and it turns your stomach, to even think about eating your, friendly neighborhood, pig or cat or not cat, sorry, cow or goat. Please don't eat cats. Anyway, then yeah, I'm like, I'm not going to be one dictating, oh, you should eat meat, right? I mean, because it just spiritually, emotionally, especially emotionally, it's just not going to jive. And the other thing too is you're going to, if you've been vegan or vegetarian for a while, you're going to actually lose the enzymes. You're just not going to need it. So you're going to lose the ability to make those enzymes, those proteins in your body to break down meat, right? And you may, whatever. So there may be other bodily changes that are associated with that. So, if someone is, that is their moral ethical standard to eat that way, I'm not going to tell them they shouldn't eat that way, right? Here's the thing, if I do testing on them and find some deficiencies or things like that, then we do the best we can with, whether it be supplements, energetic healing, things like that to help to make it work for their body. And sometimes it's even a belief that's part of the collective that may be preventing them from being able to do what they, want to do. Now, that being said, the other camp, right? So here I am as a medical doctor and a holistic medical doctor. I'm not certified in functional medicine, but I know a heck of a lot of people that are, and that have learned from. And from that perspective, so we're talking about the naturopaths, especially. We're talking about the functional medicine doctors. We're talking about the people who reverse disease on a daily basis with their clients. Okay, so autoimmune, the big C, the other big C, chronic conditions, diabetes, heart disease, that kind of thing, and they're reversing it. So there's all this data, right? As a medical doctor, I like data. So there's all this data from my colleagues, and they're like, this is what they do day in and day out. And in their experience, especially with adrenal fatigue, things like that, in their experience, the people that are eating when they're sick, okay, when they're eating vegetarian, vegan diets, are much slower in healing. Okay, that's just their experience and their observation. And so, of course, they have the belief now that observe that hey, this doesn't work for people that are sick necessarily, right? And so they will suggest to those patients, hey, we really need you to start eating meat, okay, because you're not able to make the proteins, or you don't have enough qi, right? Chinese medicine people, that's the other thing. They'll say you need to eat red stuff, you need to eat red meat, things like that, because you were too sick, your qi is too low, your adrenals are too low, you're eating up your muscles, right? Things like that, right? So they're going to have that based on their data, based on what they're seeing. And these people are doing lab tests day in and day out as well, many of them, and really documenting the trend. Now, is it possible that the only vegan vegetarians that show up in their office are the sick ones, not the well ones? Absolutely, right? It's based on their beliefs or the other beliefs. It could be a collective belief as well, but that's currently, what they see. So I'm seeing this, I'm getting what they're saying, right? And in my own experience, when I have seen people in the office, I just do divine muscle testing and ask them what their body needs in this moment in time. And occasionally, it'll be like, yeah. I was like, well, your body's saying you need this, but you don't really need to eat that. So what are we going to do here? And sometimes the person will say, well, you know what? I really need to feel better. So I will try this and, work out what the resistance or judgment or whatever is going on in my mind, right? So yeah, so sometimes people, when they're really, really desperate, will go that way. Now, Is that saying that meat eaters are always healthier? Pfft, heck no. Right? What about the standard American diet? Right? I mean, that is like people will blame and demonize them eating meat, and that's the problem. But they're also eating processed food. They're also eating, grains and wheat that are doused in glyphosate, right? Roundup. So there's all these other factors. So depending on which book you read and which movie you watch, based on the belief of the person that is running the movie, right? And their experience, they're going to give you that point of view. So at the end of the day, there's going to be, you'll be able to find data to support whatever. So I think it's your own personal experience that is the most important thing. And so my rule of thumb, generally for me personally, is that if someone's trying to dictate to me how I should or shouldn't eat, it's sort of like, okay, well, I'm a data-driven person, but also intuitive. So I have kind of like that science bridge with spirituality and to say, well, what is right for me? And at the end of the day, I ask God, right? I ask Source, what is right for me? And sometimes it does upset, some people that I eat the way they don't want me to eat because they have the belief that it's, unethical or something like that, or it may upset the other people, right? So you can't please everyone. So the only thing is just to tune in to your body and figure out what is right for you. So when I took the wonderful pendulum class from my colleague and healer teacher, Tammy Mastroberti, what was really neat was she taught us, and I can muscle test this, but it's just not as dramatic, right? So where did my pendulum go? Here. Where'd you go? Okay, so one of the things she taught us, and I hope she doesn't mind me just sharing this, I just thought it was so profound, is, with your pendulum, after you have, established your yeses and nos, which she teaches us to do, you can check and say, what is the energy of this product, right? And, well, I don't have a product in front of me, but let's see. Let's see if I can do this in front of a camera. Okay, what's the energy of this coffee that I made? Okay, so this is a yes for me. So I can't do this in front of you, but the next step is, so the energy of the coffee is good, and then I would put my hand between, this in between the my hand and the coffee, and then we get a reading. And sometimes the energy of the product's really good, okay, or the energy of the food's really good, but my body doesn't want it, and then it'll spin the other way. There was, I think, there was some cassava chips, tortilla chips that I had, and I was like, well, I should finish this bag, right? So I go over this, and I get it doesn't matter. And I was like, okay, well, I'd really like to raise the energy of the food. So that's one of the tips for today is raise the energy of your food. So you can do a food blessing, and you don't necessarily, practically everyone's attuned to TOLPAKAN healing, but you can use whatever system you want. You can put your hands over the food and focus your mind. You can close your eyes if it's helpful. And just say, I now command that this food be raised to the highest vibration possible and may it assimilate with perfect ease, incorporated into my body in whichever way, shape, form is for my highest and greatest good. Thank you. Or some version of that. So you're raising the energy of the food. You're making it the highest light score. You can say that as well, just a few seconds. And what I've done is I just retest the energy of the food. And oftentimes, then it'll start spinning a big yes after I've blessed it, which is really cool. And then I'll recheck it and see, between the food and myself, whether it's still a yes. The other day I did that with the chips. The chips ended up, as a yes, like, in other words, I increased the vibration of the food, put my hand there, and it was still like, nah. I was like, okay. And the funny thing is when I tuned into my body went, I could take it or leave it. The reason you want to eat it, Karen, is because the bag is open and they're going to go stale and you just want to finish it off. And I thought, I hate to admit that. So it's not that I really wanted it. It was more like I thought, well, it's open, I should eat it, right? And so sometimes we have to be aware of our own childhood programming. My childhood programming is finish everything on your plate. Okay, that's partly Chinese, which is funny because Japanese is the opposite. And finish everything on your plate. And then, of course, the whole Western part is there are starving children in Ethiopia. How could you not finish everything on your plate, right? So sometimes my husband would give me equal portions for me and him. And he sort of continues to do that. And I have to remind him, honey, you are actually, 30 pounds heavier than I am. You do CrossFit 5 days a week and I have a lot more muscle mass. I really don't need as much food on my plate. And he goes, oh, yeah, but I feel bad not giving you as much. So So that's his programming, right? So my thing right now is to really listen to my body. Some of you are so good at this already, so congratulations. You're way past where I am. So it's my conditioning is like there. So listening to the body and stopping when I don't feel like eating anymore. And I have to say, my last unscheduled massive cleanse, which looked like flu symptoms, okay, it wasn't actually the flu or the C or anything. After I, had released some 5 pounds, but I actually got really in touch with that feeling of, okay, I'm done. I don't want any more. And what's fascinating is I did ask for healing prior to that unplanned massive cleanse, that I honored those signals and help me honor those signals instead of overriding it with my programming. I have to finish everything on my plate programming, right? And so afterwards, I no longer have those flu symptoms, but I have a bigger, yeah, I don't really want to eat this anymore, and I'll just stop. And I was like, whoa, what have you done with Karen? And so, I'll have like, fish or whatever on my plate. And yeah, 2/3 of it, I'll just stop, which is not what I've done before. So when we talk about food and ascension, in my perspective, there is no one perfect diet for every human or even most humans. Now, where do we have agreement? Where do we have agreement? Okay, because I honestly had a conscious bias and I used to, kind of toy around with saying things like I'm a wannabe vegan, right? Because on some level, I believed that that would be healthier for the planet. I thought that was going to be healthier for all humans, and it wouldn't be harmful, obviously the animals that we sacrifice to, to feed us, right? Now, a lot of those beliefs have been shattered by other people who have researched it, and so it's not exactly true, many of these things. However, I did have this conscious belief, and because I think part of it was like people were expecting me to be vegetarian vegan because I'm a spiritual teacher, because there are teachers in India and they're vegetarian and all this kind of stuff. So there is like the spiritual want, and it's an ego-based want of they want their spiritual teacher to look spiritual. So I can't tell you how many people just assume that I don't eat meat because I'm a spiritual teacher. Now, of course, I did recover from fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue syndrome. I went to my Chinese medicine acupuncturist, and she, prescribed red meat, at some point, in there. But I thought, well, I just need to listen to my body better. And so it's like, there are parts of the day that my body's like, okay, I just want to eat vegetables or I want to eat fruit or something like that. And there's other parts where I'm like really appreciating the fish or the steak or something like that, and realizing it's not a one size fits all, even for myself. Certain days I want certain things. And so using the pendulum or muscle testing on a regular basis now is really helpful, as well as the unscheduled massive cleanse, which of course I now have a stop. Right? Don't eat, I don't eat that. And it is incredibly accurate. But if you don't have that, that's okay. You can use a pendulum or muscle testing as a tool, for you. So I thought, I was having a discussion with my friend about veganism and things like that. And she says she appreciates, all the, research and of course I get to listen to amazing people that have written books and research and all this stuff. I haven't researched it personally because it's like doubling people's work, right? So if I believe in that person, I muscle test they're a good fit for the show. I have them on my radio show, and then I learn from them and things like that. So she was really appreciating, that I'm so smart, whatever, and that I have all this information. And so I thought to myself, okay, so what if I did have a belief that does not serve me anymore? So I tested it, and I used the pendulum because I'm practicing. And I asked if I had a belief that most people on the planet, how did I say it? That most people on the planet could not be healthy being vegan. There was something like that. Yeah. And I tested, yes, I do have that belief. And that's based on, the holistic medical doctors, the functional medicine doctors, the stories that I hear, from them and my own, personal experience, that I had the belief that most people would not be healthy being vegan. That's vegetarian, but vegan. So with vegetarianism, it's less of a risk of nutrient deficiency because you have the eggs, right? And you have the cheese, so you have the B12, things like that vegans are generally deficient in, and the vegetarians have less issues with thinning of the bones and things like that. So we're just, talking generalities and what we see commonly. So I did have this belief. So I asked Source, I said, okay, well, can I erase this belief? The answer was yes. I was like, really? Right? So again, not making myself right or wrong, not judging myself, not blaming myself, not judging others, just being open. And I was like, okay, so do it, right? So I did the directive, I released the beliefs. And what's really interesting was I was releasing not just my belief, but the belief for the collective. That was interesting. So I got permission to do that. So I have more things to test out, and to, if allowed, erase for the collective negative beliefs that no longer serve us. But maybe our physiology and our DNA and or epigenetics, whatever, would shift, not because it's better or more healthy, okay, to eat this way, but that we can evolve and we can have a choice so that people can choose to be meat eaters or choose to be vegan, vegetarian, and equally be able to be absolutely healthy. You know what I mean? Because some of my other colleagues, have argued, and I don't really have a response to prove otherwise at the moment, but I've argued, look, until we have 5 generations of healthy, fertile vegans, I cannot recommend it for everyone, which I totally get, and I agree with them in that. I can't recommend it for everyone because everyone's different, right? I just muscle test people and say, what do you need, and that kind of thing. And is there bias? Possibly, right? But if I'm not going to make them, like I said, I'm not going to make them eat meat if they don't want to eat meat. But the people like the Weston A. Price Foundation, things like that, they're just like, oh God, Dr. Price never found, he wanted to, but he never found a single tribe that was absolutely healthy and fertile that was vegetarian. But that was in the 30s. And these tribes don't really exist that way anymore because they're tainted with westernized food and things like that. So we did get that data that was super, super helpful, but it doesn't mean we can't change. It doesn't mean we can't evolve. So you might check in and see what are the beliefs that you have staunch beliefs on. And it is possible that they're just beliefs. They're actually not based in reality or based on the evidence, right? Like, some of the people selling, meat products, whatever, I'd say, well, you actually kill more animals, having an avocado farm. And that's probably true. 40,000 gophers or whatever it is that they say, and don't quote me on that number, but yeah, it's 40,000. I just didn't know if it's gophers or some other small animal. So is a cow more valuable, closer to a human than a gopher? Theoretically, no. Is an insect less sentient than a cow or a pig? Well, I would say sort of. Like, they won't listen to me when I say don't bite me, right? But the Buddhists are like, the non-violent, like to the point of extreme. So they won't even build a building without moving all the worms first to somewhere else where they won't be harmed. That's not me. Hello, if you're an insect and you are biting a chunk out of me, I'm probably going to go like that. Okay, so I'm not Buddhist. I probably would be a terrible Buddhist at this point. So just saying. And so there's like this gray area. Like, where do you hold the put the line in? Okay, this is ethical. This is not. And I was having this feeling, and interestingly, this book that I'm reading, which I absolutely love, and hopefully we'll get the author of the book, Dr. Kevin Krenitsky, on our Light Warrior radio show. So it's in Q&A format. So on page 171, I want to read this to you. Okay, so the question is, how can I reconcile eating meat with my understanding of non-duality? And he answers, ultimately, all bodies are made of the same substance. All bodies are non-existent in that they don't stand out from the awareness in which they are experienced and out of which they are made. So early in the book, he talks about the direct experience of the awareness. That is who we really are, the beingness where we are all one. We're not our outside experiences. We're not our thoughts. We're not our bodies. Okay, so that's where he's coming from here. Basically saying we come from the same substance. Okay. Plants, too, are living bodies in this aspect and are capable of their own sentience and communication as well. So, yes, we do have data on that. I think Baxter showed that, when he put the little lie detector test on the leaves, that when he had an intention to burn the leaf, they went, ah! Right? And you could see it in the lie detector test. So yeah, they have sentience, and we know trees communicate with each other through these ground roots, and who knows what other way. And there's tons of like horror movies about the trees turning against humans, and because they're so sick of us killing and being violent, right? So yeah, so he's saying plants too are living bodies in this aspect and are capable of their own sentience and communication as well. If this is realized, then it's clear that an artificial distinction at some level is being made. The distinction of where to draw this line is an individual choice based on many factors and is perfectly fine as long as it's made lovingly and plants and animals are treated without cruelty or unnecessary pain. Yeah. So, and that's why, if you're a meat eater, it's better to support your local farmers. There's a film called Small Farms Rising, and they actually show, well, they show that you hear the shot, but you don't see the thing. How the cows are just grazing, right? The farmer's got the gun and sacrifices the cow, and the rest of the cows are still grazing. Like they're not in this sense of fear and panic and all this stuff. They're so happy where they are. It just really was like, okay, like it was just really interesting, my reaction to that. Regardless of what we choose to eat, we should always express love and thanks to the plants or animals that have played a perfect role in providing nourishment. So I thought that was very interesting. Here, again, super spiritual guy, assuming he's vegan, he's not, or vegetarian. So that was really interesting. The other thing that started me thinking about this as well is our off-world friend Amid, who has helped us with dimensional therapy, and thanks to my mentor Marcus Bird, who introduced us to this amazing, healing modality, which perfectly, complements my TOLPAKAN healing in a really great way. And so I thought I would, really poke the bear on one of these channelings, so Amid, could speak from their off-world, evolved being point of view. And I don't know, I guess part of my bias, and I guess now subconscious mind, was saying, conditioned mind was like, well, they're off-world. They've evolved millions of years ahead. I'm pretty sure she's going to tell us that we should be vegan. I'm pretty sure. And part of my heart was like, oh, shoot. I'm going to have to change my whole diet and blah, 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 and figure out how to do this as a human. Right? Well, that's not what she said. I was kind of shocked because I've heard from other spiritual teachers who channel, other beings, that that not in a way that says you should do this, but more in a way of, well, humans evolve and you're going to go to a more liquid diet, hence the loss of the jawline, and you're not going to be eating as much meat. You're going to eat more chlorophyll and plant stuff, and eventually you won't have to eat much at all. And I'm thinking, but I like meat, but I like eating, sorry, and it's like, oh, okay, so we're going to have a choice to be able to eat for pleasure or not, right? So that part sort of, I kind of like that belief. But Amid basically said, and I'm paraphrasing, she said it so much better than I can say it right now. She says, everyone is different. I'm like, oh, sounds like me. So everyone is different. And she said, she totally didn't say it's wrong or right or ethical or nothing like that. She said, everyone is different and all choices are good. In that if you honor, like if you put something in your field, that's what they say instead of eating. So if you put something in your field or on your field or near your field, the closer to nature it is, the better it is in alignment, and interpretation of that is alignment with your spirituality, alignment with the ideal, human form and health. So she says, if you cannot do that or you choose to, choice. That was a big, big, big thing I got from her. If you choose to eat something that is not close to nature, then just with your intention, elevate the frequency of that as you eat it. So there was no judgment about what we should or shouldn't be eating. There's no judgment that we all should be, vegan or eating, liquid chlorophyll, or, there was no judgment around any of that stuff. And she just said, well, humans are in different places, different times, and different physiologies. And at this point, it's just try to eat as pure as possible to nature. And if you choose not to, which is your choice to do, bless it. Or that's what I would say. Bless it. Bless it, raise the frequency. So that's something that you can do. So I'm just sharing, from these other sources as well as from my perspective. Again, it's just my perspective of food and ascension. So I have noticed when I've done the pendulum, when I've done muscle testing, if I am actually paying attention to what it feels like in here, instead of saying, oh, you have to eat that because you started it. You took a bite and now you're going to waste it. Now you're going to throw it out, Karen. That is not okay, right? I'm being more open. What I notice is that absolutely my body is wanting something more natural. One day it might be a salad, another day it might be a steak. But when I eat something that is prepackaged, made by a factory, my body seems like the metabolism kind of slows down. And, I can put my frequency there, elevate it, things like that. But here's the thing, it takes more energy, it takes more time. It doesn't mean it won't work. It's just that who is the me who is craving the thing that is not close to nature? Maybe I should be healing me, not the chips or not the muffin or whatever it is. And what I notice as I'm exploring this area, and I encourage you to explore it as well and make it personal to you, is that I can go, when we go to the farmer's market, this is so funny. When we go to the farmer's market, there is various different people selling different foods and homemade items and things like that. There are a couple of tents that sell things made with white flour. So croissants and muffins and, frosted whatever, right? I don't actually know because I kind of walk past that. But I don't walk past it because I think it's wrong or bad. Okay, because I used to. I'd be like, well, that's terrible. That's non-organic. That's white flour. That's white sugar. That's really bad for you. So don't ever eat that, ever. And if you do, feel guilty, right? That was the old me. So what's fascinating is that these tents, that have those types of food, and then we have other tents with like organic, fruits and vegetables and things like that. The tents that have the white flour products, they have a line so long that they actually need to put like guardrails because it was like the flow of traffic was like congested in front of the tent. And yes, is sugar addictive to the average human? Yes. Is white flour addictive to the average human? Yes. And here's the thing is I don't make myself wrong if I do choose to eat something there. But what I notice is that as I'm paying attention to my body and what my body wants, it's more likely to desire, that broccoli, from the farmer's market, rather than, but not always, rather than the donut. And it's more likely to want, maybe, an organic ribeye one night versus the donut, versus the chips, versus the crackers, versus, and I just noticed myself as I'm listening to my body more and more that sometimes I'm like, oh, yep, I need some protein from an animal, but then it'd be like, I'm generally, I eat this with a cracker, or then I have a chip or then something like that. But if I'm really listening in, a lot of times these days, it's just like my body's like, I don't really want the cracker. Sometimes I do, but often not. And anything that's processed, packaged, boxed, things less likely to want as often. Not because, oh, I'm so spiritual and I'm so much healthier than most people. None of that ego stuff. Okay, I'm just letting you know what's going on with me. Maybe you've noticed in yourself what's going on with you. I do believe, at least my current belief, is that as we go through the ascension process, if we pay attention to what our body actually needs on a daily basis and are open to releasing the beliefs like I was, releasing strongly held preconceived beliefs that do not serve humanity necessarily, right? Then we can really flow with the ascension process. We don't have to be bogged down. We don't necessarily have to have all the swelling or, you know, even how much we eat can be really, really, really different on a day-to-day basis based on ascension, what's going on. And so I think all of us will be much healthier. And you know, those that are addicted to sugar and flour and things like that can heal those addictions, whether through TOLPAKAN healing or something else. And those maybe that have been malnourished because of their staunch beliefs in a particular diet could be open to, you know, supplementation or things like that, or, you know, shifting their bodies, movement, whatever it is that would be in alignment with what they perceive they wish to do. At the end of the day, it's your body. At the end of the day, I do believe it is your choice as an individual human to see what works for you. My issue is when other people dictate what other people should do when they're not living in their body. Oftentimes they don't have the capability or the neutrality or, you know, to actually muscle test or check for that person. Is that really true for that person? They don't have the responsibility level, especially not the ones that, you know, I have the responsibility level to help people self-heal, right? So at the end of the day, I'm not going to dictate what you should or shouldn't eat. I believe you can make those decisions yourself and see the consequences of those decisions. And that, yes, along the way, you can remove negative beliefs, you can remove all sorts of things. And also, just, you know, I would encourage you to question all your beliefs and see what works for you. And if it doesn't at this time, and it could be completely different from what I'm eating or what your best friend is eating, that is completely okay. So, how we know we're going the wrong direction, let me give you the opposite, is if we fall into judgment, we fall into resistance, which I definitely had. You know, so I asked the angels and my, you know, God team, please help me with the resistance. And that really helped a lot. When we have shame, when we have blame, right? Some things we see, we assume that one thing's safer than the other or more ethical than the other. But then we actually get to the actual data, if we're open to even seeing it, sometimes it's not what we think. Sometimes it's even the opposite of what we think, which could be, oh, oh, you mean this belief is not true? Oh my gosh, you know. So if you can be open to that, that'd be great. So TOLPAKAN Healing Activation for today is around that topic of being open. Of being open to, and actually maybe doing the same healing that I did related to that sensitivity of your body to tell you what is it wants today. Wouldn't that be great? Okay, so open and body signals. All right, so if you want to get to receiving this, you could, if it's safe for you to do so, you can close your eyes. And you could just feel the energy running in your body. You can actually take your hands and rub them really, really fast. Feel the energy flow from your hands. Stop rubbing. Just feel the energy. You're in the stillness with a 0-point field. This is the auto healing state right now. I'm going to go ahead and do the TOLPAKAN healing directive, and you pay attention to how your body feels. Okay, so it's now commanded that whatever's preventing you from being open to whatever happens, new information, new science, whatever it is, opposing opinions, whatever's preventing you from being fully open, including your heart open and always possible, be healed and resolved with ease, speed, and grace in the highest and best way in all timelines where you exist. Thank you. Let's go ahead and feel that in the body. Make a note of what that energy feels like in the body. Let's go to the second part of the TOLPAKAN healing activation now. So it's now commanded that anything preventing you from fully being aware of your body signals of what it would like as nutrients, whether it be liquid or solid, whatever that is, that those issues be completely resolved and healed in the highest and best way, whether they be physical issues or non-physical issues, whether they be bias or energetic issues or whatever it is, inherited issues. Go ahead and release, dissolve, and uncreate anything that no longer serves you. You can fully connect to your body, fully make decisions from a true place of choice, not necessarily having to kowtow to or even believe your thoughts. about what should or shouldn't happen. Just being aware of that body's ability to give you the signal of what it needs right now, and that could change on a day-to-day basis. So go ahead and feel that energy. We'll go ahead and intend that healing be for all timelines where you exist, we're allowed, be speed and grace in the highest and best way. Thank you. So go ahead and feel the rest of what's going on in the body right now. I'd love for you to post in the comments what that was like for you, this activation. A couple of renouncements for this week. On Monday, August 8th, we are airing a pre-recorded interview with my friend Miguel Mendonca, and we're going to be talking about art through ET experiencers. So those that have ET contact and the art that they have created from that. It's pretty neat. Some things that he shared with all the people that he has connected with. So I'll put the link near this video. You can join us Monday at 12 noon. It is recorded. So just, you can listen in. That's when the show is airing. So I think you'll really enjoy the show. The other thing is some cool stuff, new stuff. Last week's Healthy Habits, Healthy Life video on Sunday I did was about empathy and telepathy. So I think you'll really like that. I'll put that link near this as well. Also, today, Saturday, August 6th at 3:30 p.m., I'm going to be joined in my light medicine community by my soul brothers, Hamilton Sage and John Stringer, to talk about sacred economy. This is kind of a new term, but a lot of people are interested in it now because we know our money systems are broken. They don't work for us. They don't work for the little people, if you will. So what is sacred economy? Like, what are the pillars of that, and how do we make it work? And maybe some examples of how that is done. So if you'd like to be in on this conversation, definitely make sure you log in to social.karencan.com. If you don't already have an account, a free account at my Light Medicine community, I'll put that link as well, so you can make yourself a free account. And then under the Light Medicine community calendar, you'll see that event. We're going to live stream right into the community about this. You'll be able to ask questions, things like that. So I'm really excited about today's presentation on sacred economy, and it's going to be at 3:30 p.m. Eastern. Okay. And just wanted to remind you that August 22nd, 2022, so 82222, is going to be the Ascension 3 launch. And this is going to be our biggest sale we've ever done in Ascension 3. My staff and general manager Taylor is just busy getting ready for all of that. So I really hope that you take advantage of it. Remember, ascension3.net is where you want to put your name and email address, because we are going to send you guys the sale flyer first, and August 22nd, that's when we launch for 1 week. We're only open 1 week, and then we do the fulfillment the next week. So just mark it on your calendar for 11 a.m. Eastern. That's when we're going to launch, and the sale items will go fast because they often do. So thank you so much for joining me for this episode of the Spiritual Medicine Digest. I look forward to sharing some more next week, and would love your comments down below. Thank you so much, and remember to subscribe, and if you like this video, give it a thumbs up as well. Until next time, bye for now.